Have you ever wondered how we can minimize workplace injuries and ensure everyone's safety? It's a question that keeps many of us up at night. The workplace, after all, is a hub of activities, processes, and people. It's also a place where hazards may lurk, often unnoticed, until an accident occurs. These hazards range from physical ones, like falling objects and slippery floors, to health hazards like chemical exposures and ergonomic issues. Ignoring these hazards doesn't just put individuals at risk. It can also lead to decreased productivity, increased insurance costs, and even legal repercussions. On the other hand, recognizing and addressing these hazards can create a safer, more efficient work environment for everyone involved. So, how do we go about making our workplaces safer? It's not just about wearing hard hats or putting up caution signs. It's about a systematic approach to identifying, assessing, and controlling these hazards. And that's where our focus lies today. The key to preventing these injuries lies in understanding and effectively implementing the hierarchy of hazard control model. So, what exactly is the hierarchy of hazard control model? It's a framework that helps to identify and implement practical and effective measures to control hazards in the workplace. It's like a roadmap that guides you to a safer work environment. At the heart of this model, there are 5 different levels, each representing a distinct approach to control hazards. Let's take a moment to unpack these levels, shall we? First up, we have elimination. This is the most effective control strategy. It involves completely removing the hazard from the workplace. Think of it as plucking out the root of a weed. Once it's gone, the problem ceases to exist. Next, we have substitution. As the name suggests, this involves swapping out the hazardous substance or process with a less risky alternative. It's like replacing a fierce lion with a cuddly kitten, still a creature but a much safer one. The third level is engineering controls. This is all about redesigning the working environment or work process to reduce exposure to the hazard. It's like building a fence around a cliff edge. The cliff is still there, but the risk of falling is significantly reduced. Then we have administrative controls. This involves changing the way people work. It might include implementing safety protocols, providing training, or limiting the amount of time workers are exposed to a hazard. It's like a well-choreographed dance where everyone knows their steps to avoid mishaps. Finally, there's personal protective equipment, or PPE. This is our last line of defense. It involves giving workers protective gear to shield them from hazards. It's like equipping a knight with armor before sending him into battle. These 5 elements, when used appropriately, can significantly reduce workplace injuries. It's about understanding each level's role and implementing them effectively. Remember, safety is not a destination, but a journey that requires constant vigilance. So, let's embark on this journey together, using the hierarchy of hazard control model as our guide. First and foremost, we have elimination. But what does it entail? Well, let's dive right in. Elimination is the apex of the hierarchy of hazard control. And as the name suggests, it involves the complete removal of a hazard. It's like pulling a thorn from your foot. No more thorn, no more pain. Now imagine a workplace scenario. Perhaps there's a machine part that poses a risk of injury. If we apply the principle of elimination, we simply remove that part. Of course, this isn't always feasible, but when it is, it's the most effective way to ensure safety. Think about it. If there's no hazard, there's no risk of injury. It's a simple yet powerful concept. Some real-life examples might include replacing a hazardous substance with a non-hazardous one, or redesigning a process to remove a dangerous step. Remember, elimination, although not always possible, is the most effective method in the hierarchy of hazard control. Beyond elimination, we have substitution, engineering controls, and administrative controls. But how do they work? Let's start with substitution. This is all about trading out the bad for the good, or in this case, replacing a hazard with a less dangerous one. Think of it as swapping out a rickety old ladder for a sturdy new one. The goal is the same, to reach the high shelves, but the risk of falling is significantly reduced. Substitution is like the switch you make from regular soda to diet, or from a high-calorie snack to a piece of fruit. It's a simple change that can make a big difference in safety. Next, we have engineering controls. This involves modifying the workplace or the work process to reduce exposure to hazards. Imagine a factory where loud machinery poses a risk to workers' hearing. An engineering control might involve enclosing the noisy machine or using sound-absorbing materials around the workplace. It's like putting up a fence around a swimming pool to prevent accidental falls. The hazard is still there, but the risk is minimized. Lastly, let's talk about administrative controls. This is all about changing the way people work. It could involve implementing safer work procedures, providing proper training, or scheduling regular breaks to prevent fatigue. Think of it like a speed limit on a busy road. The cars are still there, the potential for accidents still exists, but by regulating how fast vehicles can go, we reduce the risk of crashes. It's a way of managing the human element of safety. So there you have it. Substitution, engineering, and administrative controls. 3 more layers in the hierarchy of hazard control, each crucial in its own right. While they may not eliminate the hazard completely, they certainly mitigate the risks, making workplaces safer, one step at a time. Each of these levels, though less effective than elimination, plays a crucial role in maintaining workplace safety. Finally, at the bottom of the hierarchy, we have personal protective equipment, or PPE. Now, PPE does not remove the hazard, but it provides a barrier between the worker and the hazard. This is why it's the last line of defense. Examples of PPE include hard hats, gloves, safety glasses, high-visibility clothing, and respiratory protective equipment. However, it's important to note that PPE has its limitations. It does not eliminate the hazard, and if used incorrectly, it can create a false sense of security. Therefore, proper training on the use, maintenance, and disposal of PPE is crucial. Remember, PPE should not be the only measure in place. It should be used in conjunction with the other levels of the hierarchy of hazard control. This includes elimination, substitution, engineering controls, and administrative controls. While PPE is essential, it is the last line of defense and should not be the only measure in place. Now that we've gone through the hierarchy of hazard control model, let's take a moment to summarize. We started at the top of the hierarchy with elimination. This is the most effective control measure. It involves completely removing the hazard from the workplace. It's akin to nipping the danger in the bud before it has a chance to cause harm. Next, we discussed substitution, which is all about replacing a hazard with something less dangerous. It's like swapping out a roaring lion for a slumbering kitten. The goal here is to reduce the risk without compromising the task at hand. Then, we delved into engineering controls, which involve making physical changes to the workplace or using mechanical aids to reduce exposure to hazards. Imagine this as building a fence around a perilous cliff to prevent falls. We also covered administrative controls, which are changes in work policies or procedures to reduce or eliminate risks. It's like setting a rule that everyone must tie their shoelaces to prevent trips and falls. Finally, we talked about personal protective equipment, or PPE. This is the last line of defense, used when the other controls aren't enough to fully mitigate the risk. It's like wearing a helmet when riding a bike. It doesn't stop the accident from happening, but it can greatly reduce the harm if it does. Each level of the hierarchy plays a crucial role in ensuring workplace safety. They work together like a well-coordinated team, each member doing their part to keep the playing field safe. Remember, the goal isn't just about ticking off boxes. It's about fostering a culture of safety where every individual understands their role in preventing workplace injuries. It's about making sure that everyone goes home at the end of the day, safe and sound. Understanding and implementing these steps can lead to a safer and healthier workplace for everyone.